We want to welcome one of this year's finalist judges for fiction. She is the Briggs Copeland Lecturer in Fiction at Harvard University. Heard of it? Yeah. And the author of 2 novels and a collection of short stories. She is recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship and is the first Portuguese American to have her work recorded for the Library of Congress. This is fascinating, housed in the Hispanic Division. The Portuguese American Women's Association named her the 2002 Woman of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, here to acknowledge the runner-up of the 2009 Dayton Literary Peace Prize for Fiction, Catherine Vaz. What a delight.
You know, it's tough being reminded of that Woman of the Year thing because I did have to give the tiara back the next year. And I will say that as someone who was raised right outside Berkeley in the 60s, there's something really transforming and lovely about the idea that radicals can look however they want. And I'm really delighted to be here again in Dayton, as I was last year, to celebrate books that expand our definitions of our world by centering upon conflict and a yearning for peace, while being of the highest literary achievement. Of course, Eudora Welty summarized what fiction writers already know. Trouble is the backbone of literature. It's a distinct honor to be able to tell you how profoundly I was shaken and moved by the stunning debut collection of Uwem Akpan. Say You're One of Them was selected as the runner-up for the Dayton Fiction Prize this year. And it has also recently been named by PEN America as the winner of the Beyond Margins Award, and Oprah recently picked it for her book club. This growing acclaim is extremely well-deserved, and I'm sorry that Father Akpan, who is a Jesuit priest in Nigeria, has not been given the visas he needs to travel to be with us this evening. Some books inform and move us by their intellectual power, while other books affect us, not only in our minds, but it seems, also in our physical and visceral and emotional being. And it's good to be reminded of the power of literature to exact that toll, and really how rarely we come across it. While reading his 5 astonishing, harrowing, desperately beautiful stories, which center upon children in various African countries, I really was a thunderstruck wreck reeling around. It was impossible to go out in the street and not see everything as if through a differently colored screen. I guarantee no reader will emerge from this book unchanged. And this is fiction of the highest order. Without putting characters into uncomplicated categories of what's good or evil, with all due complexity. In other words, holding to how fictional narrative retains its radiant and in-depth powers. Akpan invites us into a realm that may be new to us and startling, and at the same time he illuminates the world to which all of us inescapably belong. The title itself carries a dual meaning. The mother in the story in the collection, My Parents' Bedroom, counsels her daughter to pretend to belong to the tribe that wishes her harm. But saying you're one of them also carries a spiritual imperative, one that courses in the veins of these brilliantly alive stories. We must recognize and declare our human links with every body and soul on earth, every conflict, every suffering child. Though large subjects are tackled, human trafficking, starvation, tribal massacres, the book is never didactic or preachy or sensational for its own sake. Instead, the writing reminds us of the tremendous ability of fiction to haunt, to get under our skins, into our hearts, as well as into our minds. A 12-year-old prostitute staggers home with money to help her brother gain an education. Parents urge their children to sniff glue to stave off hunger. The details are rich, which gives the writing a poetic, sometimes almost cinematic, desperately cinematic dimension. Motorcycles are blessed in a church where wealth is sung about as near to God. Meat must be eaten carefully to avoid biting into, quote, the pellets that had brought down the animal. No reader will close this book after the final scene in the last story, which was one of 5 finalists for the Kane Prize in African Writing, without being knocked sideways with what has to be one of the most shocking, breathlessly powerful moments to grace a written page in any language and at any time. It bears mentioning that grace and redemption and delicacy also rule these stories. Children are the subject and often our guides, and they hold out for the hope of salvation. The collection is rich with humane incident. A mother takes a gift of dried milk, quote, carefully in her hands like one receiving a diploma. And school children discover words as hallowed and magical. The book never asks for pity. But depicted here is finally a continent in upheaval, one we ignore at our moral peril. The lingering effect of this spectacular work of art is that we find ourselves incapable, like many of the characters, of outrunning the howling, but also the affection at its core. Rarely does one read a book that hits so forcefully and with such devastating and loving accuracy, with the sense that a continent unmoored means that we too are unsettled. I know that Father Uwem Akpan, who works among the children of Lagos, is profoundly grateful, humbled, and moved by the honor of this award, and he's here with us in spirit. In the meantime, we have the gift of his book, which is a stunning presence indeed. Thank you.